My dear beloved, come close now. There are things sitting quietly in your home right now, on your shelves, in your drawers, hanging on your walls, that are not just things. They carry energy, and some of that energy is not yours. Some of it is dark. Some of it whispers in the night, feeds your fear, disturbs your rest, and invites in what no prayer can protect you from unless you act. This isn't superstition, it's spiritual hygiene. And if you don't clear it, it will cling to you, follow you, and shape the way your spirit breathes in your own home. Every space we occupy becomes a mirror, a silent observer of our laughter, our weeping, our whispered prayers, and our unspoken thoughts. The walls remember, the floors echo, the ceilings hold the weight of your worries, even when you pretend everything is light. You may think you have moved on from certain moments, but your home knows when you sat in silence and broke inside. It remembers the way you trembled while holding a photograph, the way you spoke to the ceiling like it was God Himself, asking for an answer, begging for a sign. It recalls every slammed door, every skipped meal, every heavy footstep that marked your pain as you walked from one room to another, trying to find peace you couldn't locate in yourself. What you keep in your home becomes part of its breath. That necklace you held during your heartbreak, that gift you kept from someone who betrayed you, the note tucked away in a drawer written with rage, the candle from a ritual you didn't fully understand. These are not just objects. They are holders of history. They carry the vibration of the moment they were born, the energy of the hands that created them, the spirits of the spaces they came from. When you do not clear your home, when you do not release these items, you give the past permission to live in your present. You walk through rooms that still speak the language of your grief, and then wonder why your joy feels foreign in a place you call yours. Your home is not just physical, it is emotional, spiritual, vibrational. And if you do not tend to it with intention, it becomes cluttered not only with things, but with energies that distort your clarity and shift your alignment. Your tiredness may not be from your job. Your restlessness may not be from your dreams. It may be the energy of the space itself, holding too many memories you never gave yourself permission to release. To keep a home clean is more than mopping floors and wiping windows. It is to walk room to room with truth in your hands, asking yourself, what in here reflects love? What reflects fear? What did I place here when I was surviving that I no longer need, now that I am healing? The answers will not lie to you. The energy never does. The home will speak. The question is, are you ready to listen to what it remembers so you can finally let it go? Not everything that shines is sacred. Not everything draped in gold or carved with care was born in goodness. There are objects that sit in our homes, glowing with beauty, admired for their design, envied for their uniqueness, yet beneath their surface, they hold something twisted, something heavy, something unspoken, a dark residue woven into their very fabric that the eye cannot see, but the soul can feel. They were made by hands burdened with bitterness, sold by those who masked pain with polish, passed down through lineages soaked in grief, trauma, even wickedness. You must understand, beauty is not proof of innocence. Craftsmanship is not a measure of sanctity. Some objects are not mere decorations. They are vessels, containers, carriers of memory, of emotion, of intention. When you hold them, you hold everything that came with them, every argument they've witnessed, every tear they've absorbed, every ritual they were tied to. A statue from a market in a land you don't understand, brought into your home because it was unique. A painting that speaks in symbols you never bothered to learn. Jewelry that once circled the neck of someone who practiced dark things in silence. You wear it, you display it, you sleep near it. And slowly, your mood shifts. Your dreams cloud. You feel a weight, an unease, a presence you can't name. You begin to feel like you're not alone even when the house is empty. You light sage, say a prayer, but nothing feels clear. That's because you are trying to cast out what you continue to house. You are trying to bring peace to a battlefield disguised as a living room. Spiritual energy does not care for your taste and style. It cares for your spiritual awareness. And when you bring something into your space that has not been cleansed, not been blessed, not been questioned, you bring in the possibility of chaos wrapped in craftsmanship. Even gifts can carry shadows. That beautiful vase your ex gave you, every time you pass it, your body flinches without knowing why. That antique mirror that came from an estate sale, you didn't just buy glass and wood, you bought every reflection ever trapped inside it. That intricately designed mask hanging on the wall, it was never meant to be a decoration. It was meant to be worn by spirits. In ceremonies you were never meant to mimic. These things don't just sit, they remember, they emit, they speak. To honor your space is to question what you allow to live in it. To truly protect your spirit is to understand that evil doesn't always knock with thunder. It sometimes arrives with beauty. Sometimes it arrives polished, priced, wrapped in velvet. But when you bring it in and your peace begins to wane, your joy begins to rust, your spirit begins to tire, you must look beyond appearance. You must feel for truth. You must ask, what is this really? And why does my soul recoil when I walk past it? Some things are beautiful only in the light of day, but they were born in darkness. And no matter how pretty they are, they must not be allowed to remain. Because beauty without purity can be a snare, a silent thief, a curse that smiles. You cannot afford to be tricked by appearance, not when your peace is at stake, not when your spirit is the cost. There are things passed down through generations that carry more than just dust and fingerprints. Heirlooms, trinkets, portraits, worn-down furniture, tattered Bibles, journals with handwriting that's no longer remembered by voice. These things come with stories, but not all stories are ones of love. Not all inheritances are blessings. Some are burdens, hand-delivered by tradition, wrapped in silence, and cloaked in obligation. Just because it came from your grandmother's house doesn't mean it came clean. Just because it sat in your father's study doesn't mean it sat in peace. What you receive from the past, you must examine in the light of truth, not sentiment. Many of us grow up with reverence for what is old. We are taught not to question the gifts of the past, to hold tight to the things that survive the years. But survival does not equal sanctity. There are objects that have witnessed violence, been near betrayal, been tied to addiction, deceit, or spiritual confusion. That ring passed from hand to hand, what hands first wore it, and under what circumstance? That knife in the kitchen, always kept, though never used. What blood does it remember? What rage does it recall? The rocking chair that creaks in the dark. Who once rocked their sorrow into its frame? And did they ever release it? Inherited items often arrive with unspoken attachments. A mirror from a home that burned with hatred. A book from someone who practiced rituals in secret. A clock that's been ticking through decades of unrest, held in a house that never knew joy. You think it's just a family item, a memory of where you came from, but you forget to ask, what else came with it? Memory lives in more than just minds. It lingers in things. And when you bring an item into your space, you bring in more than matter. You bring energy. And if that energy has not been cleansed, not been blessed, not been interrogated with spiritual discernment, it will live on, unchallenged, within your walls. And it will whisper, it will weep, it will thicken the air of your home with feelings you cannot name. Sometimes what you call depression is the echo of a grief that wasn't yours. Sometimes your insomnia is tied to something resting on your shelf that never learned to sleep. Sometimes your anger is not yours alone, but shared with the spirit of a place or a thing that was handed to you without your consent, without your knowing. You have the right to break the pattern, to question the inheritance, to stand in your home and ask, does this belong to me, or does this belong to the pain that came before me? You do not owe loyalty to objects. You owe loyalty to your peace, to your healing, to your truth. If something feels heavy, even though it is small, examine it. If it brings confusion, though it was a gift, listen to your spirit. For some things are passed down not to be kept, but to be released. Not everything that enters your home deserves to stay. Even if it came wrapped in family, even if it came wrapped in love that could not protect itself from the shadows, even if it came with a name you respect. History must be honored, but it must also be purified, or it will repeat itself in your house, in your body, in your soul. There are paintings hanging on walls right now, framed in elegance, admired for their technique, praised for their boldness, yet what they carry is not beauty. It is burden. Not every brushstroke is harmless. Not every symbol is silent. Not every face that stares back from the canvas was painted with peace. In this modern age, we are taught to revere the visual, to bring into our homes things that stir emotion, provoke thought, spark conversation. But some images do more than stir. They summon, they call out. They open doors that were never meant to be unlocked. Art is spiritual, always has been. Long before it was commerce, long before it hung in galleries or sat in living rooms, it was prayer, it was offering, it was ritual. Ancient peoples drew symbols in caves not for decoration, but to speak to the unseen, to honor gods, to bind spirits, to declare things into existence. That truth has never changed. It has only become more disguised. So now you may walk into a store and buy a print for your wall, not knowing the original artist was in torment or invoking energies they didn't understand. You may place a mask on your mantle, once used in sacred ceremony, not knowing it was never meant to be displayed, but worn only by the chosen, in shadows, in silence. You may hang a tapestry adorned with signs and sigils that don't belong to your culture, don't speak your language, don't carry your faith, but they speak nonetheless. Art has energy. It has a presence. It holds the vibration of the moment it was created, what the artist was feeling, what they were channeling, what they were resisting or surrendering to. And when you place that image in your home, you don't just get color and canvas. You get access. You give permission. You hang it above your bed, above your altar, across from your front door, and wonder why your dreams grow darker, why the atmosphere shifts when no one else is home. Not all art is malicious, but not all art is innocent either. Some pieces are coded in pain. Some are vessels for unrest. Some are open invitations for spirits that walk without faces, energies that enter without knocking, frequencies that hum beneath the surface until they become a storm in your spirit. You must look beyond the visual. Ask, what does this piece represent? Where did it come from? What does my body feel when I sit near it? You do not need to understand every symbol to be affected by it. A child does not understand fire to be burned by it, and so it is with imagery born of unknown places. You may call it abstract, you may call it unique, but energy needs no translator to do its work. There are images that carry sorrow like an offering, that radiate pride, lust, anger, despair, rebellion, and even ritual intent. They are not art, they are portals. Portals you have hung in your sacred space and called beautiful. There is wisdom in discernment. Just because something stirs your eye does not mean it's meant to live with you. Just because it was expensive does not mean it is safe. Just because it is celebrated by the world does not mean it is blessed. Your home is an altar. Treat it as such. Every item within it either honors your peace or challenges it. Some images hang like shadows on the wall, watching, listening, distorting what should be clear. They may not speak, but they do echo. And the echo grows louder the longer you keep them close. There is a quiet price to pretending something doesn't bother you, a silent cost to making room for what you know in your soul should not stay. You think you're being strong, patient, mature, choosing peace by ignoring the small discomfort, the strange sensation, the shift in the air. But what you call tolerance, the Spirit calls agreement. What you allow, even with a sigh, even with a shrug, you are aligning with, and what you align with, you eventually absorb. The longer you let that thing sit, the more power it gathers. The longer you leave it unchallenged, the deeper its roots grow. That object on your shelf, that symbol on your wall, that gift from someone whose hands were not clean, if it disturbs your spirit, even in the slightest, you must understand, it will not stay silent forever. Evil does not always enter with noise. Sometimes it tiptoes in, wrapped in sentiment, cloaked in tradition, disguised as beauty. It waits in corners. It hums in frequencies you don't always hear with your ears, but you feel it in the tension in your shoulders, in the heaviness in your chest, in the nightmares that come without explanation. And still you let it be because it's easier not to confront it. Because you're attached to the memory, because you think it's not that serious. But nothing that pulls at your peace is casual. Nothing that robs your clarity is harmless. That uneasy feeling is not paranoia, it's protection. Your spirit speaks in feelings before it ever speaks in words. We live in a world that praises tolerance, as if endurance is the same as wisdom. But there is no virtue in allowing poison to live in your house. There is no reward for pretending you don't notice the way your joy bends around that object, that smell, that presence. You say you'll deal with it later. You say you don't want to be dramatic. You say it's just a thing. But things hold energy, and energy has memory. And memory, when it is painful, unhealed, and unchecked, becomes torment. That mask you bought on vacation that gives you chills every time you pass it, but you leave it up because it's exotic. That mirror from your mother's bedroom where she wept and cursed her own reflection, now hanging in your hallway, carrying the weight of a self-hate you've begun to feel in your own bones. That carved statue from an unknown culture placed beside your altar, vibrating with intentions you never invited. What you do not confront will eventually confront you. What you avoid in the name of tolerance will grow bold in your silence. We must learn the difference between peacekeeping and soul-keeping. You are not keeping peace by ignoring the war inside your own walls. You are only giving darkness permission to settle. The longer you keep what shouldn't be there, the more it blends in. And one day, you won't be able to tell where the object ends and your suffering begins. Because you've grown used to it. Because torment, when tolerated, becomes part of the furniture.